Now, Ofer Tziperman is joining us. He's going to continue Jonathan's speech about artificial intelligence. For you to know, Ofer has 37 patents on distributed AI, so he's a master in this. So please.
Not all of them are mine, but I'm going to represent them today. So great to be here today. Let's see that the presentation is on. I'm going to talk today about the way of taking artificial intelligence into the edge device. And this is actually going to be, I hope, for everybody, quite a fascinating journey. So maybe let's start by, if this is going to move. Yep. Let's start by understanding first what the problems are. And I think that it is quite clear to everybody that today, when we are talking about personalization, when we are talking about data, the core problem is that on one side, we need to have personalization. This is what the customers are looking to have from us. On the other side, they are looking to have their full privacy. Can privacy and personalization coexist? That's a huge, major problem. And I have to say that in my 30 years experience, I never saw any issue or impact like the privacy legislation is happening in the last 6 years since GDPR was out. So that's one major issue. Now, if we are looking at the common problem over here, you have a mobile app. You have, let's say, 1 million users. Something like half of your customers may drop during the registration process. You already convinced them, download my application, and they did, but you're losing them. And then out of the remaining 500, 400,000 are actually not buying too much. So in practice, you have something like 90% in this example, and it is not far away from many of the applications, that you are missing. So another major problem, how can you get these people to engage? I think that, since Google announced in 2020 that they are going to deprecate cookies, this is a major headache to all the data people over here in this room. We were used to count on third-party data. We collect data. We know so much about our customers. But now, third-party cookies are going to be gone. This is going to affect, it is already affecting, major industries. And the point is that this lack of data is going to create a major shift in the industry. We already see, by the way, that some of the legislators, like in the UK, are holding back Google not to go too fast before we actually have solutions for this major issue. And some very typical problems of anyone that want to engage customer are the issue that you are lacking the understanding of the real world of your customers. You know about anything that they are doing in your application, what they bought in your store, but you're lacking understanding them. You're suffering from dormant users. You're suffering from users that never completed their registration. All of these are real problems that retailers and others are meeting in the market. So it looks like the market is looking for a solution. The solution, as I hope that we will see later on in more details, is to take the AI from the traditional place in the cloud and to move it down to the edge device. By doing that, of course, everything has pros and cons. So, of course, the pros is that you can get much better personalization, and we'll see it later on. You can have a wealth of new data. You can also understand something which you did not so far, and that's the context. What is this user doing now? You can have the highest level of privacy. You don't need to take the personal data out of the device. And a question is it also going to be a new source of data? While the challenges are, well, you want to run artificial intelligence algorithms in the phone. Are you going to drain my battery? How do you train models if all the information is in the device? And then how can you run personalization in a blind way? You want to serve me with something, but you don't know who I am because all of my data is in my phone. So some interesting challenges. But if you look at where the market is going, you see that that's very clear. And this is a quote from one of the leaders of AI technology at Qualcomm that says, it started from the cloud, but AI is quickly shifting into the device. So let's try to see some final challenges when it comes to the handset. First of all, if we want to run models in the phone, then all the algorithms needs to run in the phone. How can you run algorithms in such high demand in a very limited computation device? Apparently, if you have an iPhone or Android phone, this operating system, if they recognize that you run a process at the background of the phone which takes more than 100 milliseconds, they will kill it. So you cannot run complicated computation at the back of the device. How can you train models in a distributed way? If all the personal data remains in the phone, how can you engage consumers with personalization, as we said? And we are going to see how we are going to unfold all of these challenges when we are actually taking things in the edge. So the first point, and we spoke about the 37 patents. The reason for these 37 patents is that this is really complicated. What we managed to do is to take something like 50 different signals from within the phone, translate these 50 signals to 16,000 data points. 16,000 data points that are now sitting from within the phone. So for the first time, if you generally think about the AI engine, usually AI engine says, okay, I'm the engine, feed me with data. But when you're talking about edge AI, this is an independent device. It needs to be isolated, so it needs to come with its own data. And that's exactly what you need to create. And this is the best first-party data that you can think of, because that's the personal device of the individual. So if you can take these 50 signals, translate them into 16,000 data points, and then work with on-device algorithms to translate them into more than 500 insights, you have something to start working with. So these signals are then being translated to the fact that the phone, not me as a retailer, not anyone, my phone can understand my profile. And my profile and my data stays in the phone. My phone can understand my moment, or in other words, my phone can understand what is the best moment to engage me, which is different than engaging each and every one of you. It's a very personal issue. And, of course, the holy grail of artificial intelligence is to understand, or being able to allow my phone to predict what I'm likely to do next, or what I'm likely to want next. And this is, of course, alongside other key performance indicators of any application. So one thing that I wanted to share, without going too technical, is we spoke about the challenge of how can you train a model that will eventually run in the device. Usually you take all the information to the cloud, you train the model in the cloud, and then you bring that to the device, but that is going to infringe on my privacy. So one implementation is to take all the information from all the devices, but without the user ID. So you don't know when you're taking the relevant information, you can encrypt the information. The fact that I'm a male driving a BMW doesn't have to go out of my phone in such a way. It can go as an encrypted message. It will go to the main cloud. The main cloud doesn't need to know that this is me, but now it gets a lot of information, and as machine learning, it couldn't care less what is behind the information. It is trying to find correlations between the one thing that it needs to predict and the data that it was given. And then what happens is that you can train a model, and when you send this model back to the devices know to decrypt the ingredients of the model and then make sense of this model in each one of the devices, just as one example. Another thing which is major, and I mentioned that before, and that increases, we're talking about engagement, that increases the engagement in an unbelievable way. If you're going to serve me with whatever message, coupon, a special offer, if you're going to offer that to me while I'm driving my car, I will simply not see it. But if you're delivering it to me when I came back home, I ate my dinner, I picked my phone, I touched the screen, and now you're popping the message in front of me, that's the best moment of engagement. I'm looking at my phone. I'm receptive. So trying to figure out along the day which are the best moments to engage and try to engage people only in these moments and to understand what is relevant for each individual, that's another key element. Now, speaking about, how can you use the information in a phone to predict anything? And when I'm saying anything, I know it's a little bit of ambitious kind of a mission, but think about it. Anything that you have, your own label data, you can now associate with 16,000 data points from within the phone. So of course, any artificial intelligence engine will find a correlation, especially if you're feeding the training model with information from a lot of people. And then what you see over here is just a few explainable elements. You want to predict somebody's age. Usually we are referring to behavioral age, okay? Because maybe I'm 50, but I behave like a 40 years old. I should be treated as a 40 years old. But that's not my case. So you see over here that the frequency that my screen goes on and off, the size of the fonts in my phone, the fact if I'm driving a Fiat Uno, if I'm driving a Mercedes, all of this, especially if you take them as masses of data, have some effect on what is my age. And so goes on and on. It is not a single data point that you're trying to use for the prediction, but it's a multiple kind of data sets that eventually are driving to the conclusion. And here comes the issue when we are, looking at each and every one of us. Usually in our own business, we have some label data. Okay, we are a retailer, we know something. We know, for example, who is a high lifetime value customer. Why? Because we see how much they buy, we see the frequency that they are buying. But what was said before, the only thing that matters is how much you pay and how often you come to my store. We know that. Take this information, marry this data with this wealth of new, fresh data that you can find in the edge device, and here you go. You can now build models to predict almost anything. And you see over here a list. In this case, this is a list for retailers. Think about the fact that within seconds from installation of an app by a user, you don't need to wait for days, for weeks, or for months. Within seconds from installation, this Edge AI goes into the phone, it looks around, and it says, okay, according to my model, the likelihood of this user to become a high lifetime value customer is very high. Will that change the way that you treat such a customer during the onboarding session? Of course. You know that you need to fight for this customer. And how about that the model is also going to tell you, and by the way, this user is likely to churn, is likely to uninstall this application within 30 days, because that's what another model is saying. So you have a wealth of options, and this is why with Edge AI, we will be able to predict almost anything. Now, when we usually meet data scientists, they start with skepticism. They say, well, guys, we have a lot of data. We don't even know what to do with our own data. And we are coming to some models, and we are already predicting stuff. But this is changing as soon as one is seeing the wealth of additional, fresh, highly unique data. Of course, this data is going to impact any existing model. It is simply more data is translated to more accurate prediction. It is a mobile phone eventually, and as a mobile phone, it is quite limited in computation. So it is not enough to take a model that was built to work in a cloud with very high amount of computation resources and start using that on a mobile phone. So the first stage that you need to do is to change the model in a way to even to rebuild the model so that it would now be able to distribute it into mobile phones to run on each and every one of these phones. And I would like to now go back to the first slide of the privacy challenge. So far, in order to offer something which is personal to me, you need to collect a lot of information about me to your cloud, to your CRM, so that later on you know what to push in my direction. And this is what we call the push architecture. But with privacy, there are now limitations. So this is where the new Edge AI model is now coming to the front. And this is quite interesting because the cloud knows nothing about me. The only thing that you can say to the cloud is, what do you want to offer, to whom, when, and where? Now, each one of the phones is now coming to the cloud and pulling this information, but the decision if to show that to this customer and when is done in the phone. It's not done in the cloud. Maybe I'll use an example. Let's assume that you go into a restaurant. Okay, you have two options. One option is that you sit by a table, the waiter is coming to serve you, you are fully identified because the waiter needs to go back to your table with your food, right? The other option is that you take your plate and you go to the buffet. You don't tell the buffet who you are. You just pull food into your plate and you go to eat. That's the Edge AI analogy. For the first time, you can serve somebody with high personalization and high privacy at the same time. Let me show you another example, because this is very important to understand the dramatic shift that is happening thanks to new technologies. This is a snapshot of one of the elements that we have in a very long dashboard that usually we provide to our customers. In this specific one, it shows things related to your driving habits. Do you own a car? Do you usually drive early in the morning? Are you a heavy driver? And so on. And among others, it is showing what type of cars people are driving. Now, when this information gets to the cloud, it is fully anonymous. I cannot say that Ofer is driving a BMW. But I know the information in an aggregated way for everybody. So I can understand that Ford is the most popular car among my users. Now, here is the point. I want to serve right now a message only to the Toyota customers. But I don't know who is driving a Toyota. So what I do is that I prepare a campaign and I put it on the table of the buffet. This campaign is only for Toyota users, and it should be activated only when they go back home. Every one of the phones is pulling this campaign, which is a very small string, and now the phone is making the decision. Yes, this is a Toyota driver, and yes, he just now stepped back home, and now the message is being popped up. So you can understand the transformational shift that is happening over here. So let's have a quick look on some of the values that can be contributed in different domains. Because in large, this type of solution is good regardless of what type of domain you're coming from. If you're a retailer or an insurance company or a sport company or a telco, it doesn't really matter. So the first point is that you want to increase the sales. You want to increase conversion. You want to identify hot leads. And think about it. All of those are now able to become reality. You want to help identify product improvements. So you improved something, but you don't get the right feedback unless you have the relevant solution. How about analyzing and understanding your competitors from your own app? How is that possible? We're going to see that in a second. You want to increase the relevance of your own messaging. You want to generate custom analytics to the extent that you just need to speak it out. Show me how many of my customers are female that are buying this specific product between 10 to 11 in the morning. You just spell it out, and the system will do the rest. Can you increase the onboarding registration rates? Provide personal assistant? Enrich your own data? We saw with how much, and then predict core business metrics right from the beginning. So let's have a look on some examples. I only brought a very small snapshot because there are hundreds of them from retail and later on also from insurance. So over here, what you see is competition. How can you understand competition from your own app? Edge AI sitting in your own app is also able to see which other apps are installed in your phone. So you can understand how many or which even competitors. You don't know that about one individual. I remind everybody, it's anonymized information if this is being collected. But now you can understand what is the ratio of your closest competitors among your own customers. And this is a live kind of information. You can see how many installations are happening on a daily basis. So you can start identifying patterns. And you can even understand which one of your competitors are gaining momentum or are losing momentum among your own customers. Extremely interesting to understand is it something that you did, or is it some campaign that they did? Do you have this information today? It's very difficult to harvest that information. Now you have it as your own first-party data. And then, for example, speaking about these prediction capabilities, right? So you have the understanding of what is the user gender. The algorithm can figure out, is it a parent or a single? What is the likelihood that this specific customer is going to be a premium customer? And then you marry that with other label data that you have, and you can come up to predictions about the right offering. And so on and so forth. It can go for electronics. Do you have a smartwatch? Or are you using earbuds? Which model? How often do you use them? How many TVs do you have at home? Anything that you think about, these little devices that we hold can understand, yet keep it as our own private information. Another example from the insurance domain is, for example, you want to run travel insurance. One thing that you do not know is that how many of the people that stepped into your application or downloaded your application actually traveled abroad, and to which country they actually traveled, not the one that you insure them, but what was the real life behavior of these people. Now you can understand it, again, in the aggregation. So you can understand, in this case, that USA is a very popular destination in that specific country. You can make your offering accordingly. Or, for example, you are able to understand what are the typical airlines that they're using. Maybe you would like to do some kind of a collaboration. You can understand if somebody is spending a lot of time in hotels. Are they frequent traveler? You can understand as well what is the funnel of user behavior in your own application. So how many people are starting the process, how many are ending, and now you can add another thing, which was not available previously. Why? What is the profile? What is unique about the people that are starting the funnel and the people that are ending it? And what is unique about the people that are dropping in each section? Suddenly you have this information. This is actionable information. This is another very interesting point of understanding hot leads. So you are offering travel insurance, and the application understands that somebody just now downloaded booking.com. This is a hot lead. Probably they want to travel. And the examples, of course, goes on and on. Over here as well, you can understand the competition. You can understand all kind of other analysis information, like what is the trend in terms of installation and uninstallations. What is this major event that happened that caused so many people to uninstall your application overnight? Maybe I'll stop on this one for a second, because this is just to intrigue the mind of how artificial intelligence can find things that we would never imagine. So what you see over here is the ability to build a model that is going to predict what is the level of risk-taking of people. And apparently, the fact that how many times do you, each and every one of you, are charging your phone per day? How many times you practically plug your phone? How willing are you to go to zero battery in your phone? Think about it in your own examples. How willing are you to actually give dangerous permissions to applications, your location, your motion and activity? When you put everything together, those are indicators of risk-taking or risk-averse. And the beauty is that you don't need to think about it. It's the machine that is bringing all of that to the surface. And I would like to finish with this one summary slide. And everybody are talking here as well about Gen AI. And you will all, if you are not already, you will all use Gen AI. It's not even a question. But I don't know how many of you know that the first LLMs are already being implemented into edge devices. So we used to think, well, LLMs, they are using petabytes of data. They must have a very big cloud. Surprise, surprise. The first LLMs that are 5 gigabytes in size can already work from within the phone without any connection to the network. So there is only one thing which is standing between us, all of us, and being able to serve our customers in the device itself with Gen AI, and that's the fact that right now, it is one size fits all. If I'm going to ask my personal assistant, what's going to be the weather like tomorrow? And each and every one of you are going to ask exactly the same question, and we are all sitting here, we are going to get the same answer. But we need to get different answers, because maybe I am a mariner preparing my yacht to sail, and you are sporty guys that are going out to run or preparing your child for school. The weather, this very simple question, this weather issue needs to be personalized. So there is a common belief in the industry right now that the mini revolution within the huge Gen AI revolution is actually going to happen with Edge AI, because that brings this overwhelming revolution to the individual. If you will ask people in the street, what does Gen AI mean for you? Most of them will not know what it is or how it is helping them in their own life. With personal Gen AI, that's going to make a totally different issue. With that, I would like to thank you, and thank you very much.